Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. Our Money Masterclass series for Financial Literacy Month continues with Anika Jackson, USC Annenberg Professor of Digital Media Management, founder of Your Brand Amplified, and co-host of Mediascape and Zen Power Hour. This entrepreneurship powerhouse shares how she went from club promoter to thriving brand builder by teaching clients and students to first know themselves as a brand. Miss Jackson breaks down her proven system and explains how she turned her side hustle into scalable success without hiring a team too quickly. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, learn how to amplify your authentic voice across niches and take advantage of her AI clone for instant branding tips. Enjoy. It's Financial Literacy Month, and man, students have been asking me about entrepreneurship, and I said, let me put you in front of some experts. I know a few things, but let me let me introduce you to some powerful people, particularly in social media and podcasting. And so today we have Anika Jackson. She's actually the USC Annenberg Professor in Digital Media Management and Digital Social Media. She's a Chief Strategist and founder for Your Brand Amplified, and she's a co-host of Mediascape podcast and Zen Power Hour podcast. How are you, Anika?
I am good, and I'm going to be so much better after this conversation.
Oh, I'm ready. I feel so good. We were talking offline that the energy is there, right?
It is. Yeah.
I'm excited. There's so many great things you're doing. And so, as I said, we have students that really want to branch into entrepreneurship and branding. And they know it starts with social media. A lot of it does with that marketing piece. And so as a successful entrepreneur, I wanted to know what motivates you and what was the beginning place for you and what made you decide to bring your talents to higher ed?
So I won't tell the whole story because that would take up all of our time. But I grew up in Kansas. My mom was first generation to the United States, came here for college, right, in California, and then met my dad. They moved to Kansas. Nobody really looked like me, not a lot of community for me to vibe with, but I loved music. And so I found people who loved music. And so I actually started out promoting DJs and clubs in Kansas City when I was in high school because I was all showing up. People thought, oh, she's just always smiling. She'd be a good person to promote. And that parlayed into after high school throwing what were then called raves and having club nights and just doing events and really trying to bring people together. And that's always been my thing. I love bringing people together, whether it's around a cause, a podcast, a course, a mission, and helping people see what they can achieve around that, right? So really helping people see the light inside of them and be able to use it for a bigger purpose. And so that start in club promoting got me to promoting in Chicago, working for a marketing firm there because the club certainly wasn't going to pay me enough to survive. And even then I was making $16,000 a year.
Wow.
To LA because I was like, I can't do that anymore. My sister was in LA, worked in the clubs in Hollywood, also worked for the marketing firm, also got a job as a receptionist at a magazine publisher back when magazines were really popular in print. Parlayed that into doing everything I could just from things I'd picked up along the way. Then moved to San Francisco, launched a couple of magazines there, including Official Xbox magazine when Xbox first came out. So I had this career that was, really based on who I was, not what degree I had. I did get a degree in public administration because I've always like, am I going to be a social worker? Am I going to be in business? Right. And really at the root, entrepreneurship has always drawn me back in. And I do think that it's really important to know who you are as a brand, first and foremost, before you start on any journey. Because knowing who you are, what's your purpose here? Your mission, vision, what are your values? That really helps people say yes or no. And I wish that I'd done that for myself many times when I judged myself or made the wrong decisions or decisions that looked good because the money, but they actually were not aligned with who I am, with my values. And I would have to walk away at some point. So, there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at entrepreneurship, when you're looking at building yourself up, building your business, your brand, and then being able to actually make money from it.
I'm so glad you said that you have to recognize yourself as a brand, because a lot of students are recognizing that it's not just about the resume, it's the brand. You are it. So, as we are here for Financial Literacy Month, and I'm thinking about these entrepreneur enthusiasts, many lack that confidence. And so, I wanted to speak about maybe a branding tactic that has helped you just build your confidence and your visibility early on in your career.
Gosh, there's so many. So the first thing is I always start, even when I used to have a PR firm, and that's where Your Brand Amplified, the podcast and the brand came out of. So in the PR firm, I'd have a lot of clients come to me. Actually, I had Kitty Credit, who was financial literacy for kids, gamification, using an app, mirroring a FICO score. So it is really important to understand what credit is, and it's not just free money, right? It can help you establish a business, but you have to have some things established before you can get to that point. But I would have to go back to everybody and say, okay, you have social media, you have a logo, you have a website, but do you truly know what your values are, who you are as a brand? So I took everybody through, what is your purpose, mission, vision, values, positioning statements, key messages. When people understand who you are, what do you want them to see? What messages are those? And are you always staying true to that? Or do you need to make some adjustments? So baseline, because again, easy yes, easy no. Easy money might be good, but it also might be a no if it's not aligned with your values and who you are and what you want to put out in the world. And I've learned that I've quit 3 jobs since I've been back in LA, where I was a VP of a marketing agency twice, and then as executive director of a nonprofit, because I realized that it wasn't quite mission aligned. And it's really hard to walk away from that kind of money, but you have to stay. And especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're thinking of yourself as a brand. So start with your brand blueprint, be really clear on who you are, what you're trying to achieve in the world, and then build a business plan. Even a podcast is a business. You have to start with that, and then that helps you build out, what are you doing for social media? Where is your audience, right? It builds out all those fundamental questions as you're building your business. What kind of business do you have? What are your goals? Is it revenue? Is it visibility first and then revenue? How are you going to attract people to the brand? Then how to use social media correctly. How to use podcasting, PR, all these other things. These are workshops that I do that last hours and days, and 3-month coaching programs for entrepreneurs, but also like a whole semester class at USC, because I have a podcasting for brand building, but it's really podcast 101. Let's create your business. So lots of ways I could go, but I'll stop.
Yeah, powerful stuff. What stood out for me was that you focused on, not just the logo, you focused on the value. What are your standards? So would you say your confidence comes from that you kind of knew your value system?
Yes.
That's why you were able to move forward and leave jobs, because you knew your value.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I left without money in the bank. I mean, I have the whole story of I had been up at the top, I've been down at the bottom. When I moved back to LA, paid for my move here, left a business in Houston, didn't have a job when I got here, didn't have any money, had to go on food stamps. This is just 7 years ago, and start from the ground up to prove my worth in this community. But I knew I had value. I had friends who knew I had value, family who supported me in that way. And I was like, I just have to swallow my pride and do what it takes, right? To get to the point where other people see this value too. And now Your Brand Amplified as a podcast is a top 0.5% podcast. It is monetized. Wow. I mean, the end of this month, I'll get a check that is between $17,000 and $30,000 for advertising.
My goodness.
So I'm saying if I can do this, anybody can do it, because I've been there. I've walked all the steps. But yes, confidence comes from doing the work. And that's where the Zen stuff comes into with the Zen Power Hour podcast. It's with a former Zen monk, Alan Knight. He has Parkinson's. He's older. He's not good at marketing himself. But what I've learned is I was like, I know who I am. I know what my values are. But now I feel even more confident expressing them, because I've done work of figuring out what that takes, what that looks like, what you say yes to, what you say no to, evaluating where you are in life, making sure that you're not letting things from your past come back to haunt you, that you're forgiving people, forgiving yourself for things that happened. So it's a little mix of a whole bunch of things. Yes, it's business acumen. Yes, it's brand and values and also mindset. And if you don't have the right mindset, then you're not going to have a successful business, no matter what you do.
Wow. Well, folks need to run to your course. To run, because I think you have a few courses. So tell us about them, because wow, it's just blowing my mind that you just said just 7 years ago you had nothing and you walked away from some of the most successful positions you've had because you held on to your personal value.
Yes.
That's everything. So do you talk about that in your courses, or which course would you like to tell us about?
Oh gosh, I do an intro because I think it's really important for my students to see where I came from. I came from Kansas. I started as a club promoter. I've had a lot of lives. You don't have to have a linear path. Most of us don't. I mean, you were telling me about your story too.
Yes.
Things that appear for us at the right time, we say yes to. And that's what's gotten us here today. So some of the classes I teach, they're already classes that were established at USC for 2 different grad programs. And actually I used to teach on the PR side as well. I taught PR and branding, PR in the role of celebrity. Then I moved over to this side of things where, I teach classes for digital media management masters. Those are on digital, like content, direction, planning, the planning process, advertising, measuring, analytics, data. The course that I created there, podcasting for brand building. This is the 2nd semester and it's coming back in the fall. And it really is that course that teaches these building blocks. We start with brand, we get into the business planning, because if you want to have a successful business, no matter what it is, that planning is essential. And for my podcast, my Your Brand Amplified podcast, I didn't even treat it as a business for the first 3 years. I worked these other jobs. I paid for the podcast out of that. Then somebody sat me down and said, this is a business. If you're saying you have a wait list that's a year long, if you're saying that you have this kind of audience, and these are the numbers that I'm seeing when I look at your podcast, then this is not just a hobby. Sometimes you have to have that person in your corner who's more successful than you, who's willing to bop you outside the head and say,
This is a hobby.
Yes. And that's when I started doing more in the podcast communities, going to speak at podcast conferences, doing workshops, building this course, got invited to an ad network, started monetizing, right? So I like to teach people how to build not just a company, but what channels are you promoting it on? How are you using advertising? How are you making sure that all the information is on blogs on your website? Like, the paid, earned, search, shared, and owned media, the Peso system, ecosystem. But I also want people to know how to monetize and not be afraid to ask for money. Because I think a lot of us are also afraid, right? When I started my PR firm, I charged $500 a month. Most of my clients were startup founders, minority startups, didn't have a lot of money to throw around either. But I was like, I need to reestablish myself in the LA market. And I was able to get clients into Forbes, CNBC, all these big channels. They weren't paying a lot. And I built my company up. And there are things that I did wrong. And that's why also people should move slow. When you get excited about your business, don't start throwing money into it and hiring too many people and paying them too much. Be really methodical about systems, processes, setting those up so that you know how much money you have in the bank. So you know when you can hire, who you need to hire, what you can use AI for. There so many lessons, especially today. Because I think we get really excited. If you're starting a business, you get really excited. You go viral, one social post, you get really excited. But that's not going to put food on the table.
Ooh, I'm so glad you said that. That there seems to be a desire to go viral. That does not mean you're making any money.
Yeah.
Because you went viral, right? Oh, so you're really teaching the steps, the process. That's fantastic. And this is a course you said that you created.
That I created. I originally created it for entrepreneurs. Then my mentor at USC was looking for more courses. So I pitched a few different ideas. And this is the one that he said, yeah, we need that one. So I teach at USC. And then I was like, oh, but I actually still want to teach it for entrepreneurs. So I created it as a coaching program, just a few people in at a time. And we go through the same process and we bring in other pieces. We bring in some of the mindset coaching. I bring in like, here's how to set up PR profiles so that you can start finding out what podcasts you should be on as a guest, because you need to have practice being a guest, not just being a host, right? And then you'll also know how to create a better experience for your guests. I mean, I can go on and on and on with all the things. But I also, again, we were saying this when we jumped on, we need more people who look like us in all spaces. And if you look at the top podcasts that are monetizing, the businesses, the business leaders who usually pitch themselves for my show, most of them do not look like us. And most of them are not women, right? So there is a lot we have to offer and we need to help elevate each other. And that's why, like, going back to my why, right? Creating community, creating groups where we can all come together, share with each other and lift each other up.
Wow. Your students are very lucky, very fortunate that you have a heart for this.
Yeah, I'm getting chills because I just love it so much.
Yeah, good stuff. So now as a business owner, I'm thinking about your business model. You went into coaching and podcasting. When did you know you had a strong model that, things were taking off? And was it one or the other or both? What took off first? How about that?
Yeah. Well, podcast first, because I was doing the podcast that's the only thing consistent that I've done since I got back to LA. And I worked these other jobs, right? Podcast was consistent. Then I realized, oh, this is actually a business opportunity. Then I got asked to be on an ad network, started monetizing a little bit, then started getting really into the analytics, the SEO. What else can I do better? And then I've slowly built the team. So I have people in the US, certainly, but my main editor for the past 4 years, my main podcast admin are in the Philippines, right? And then now I've started making strategic hires from my USC students who are either they have podcasts or they've been through my podcast program and started their own podcast that way. They have these degrees and I worked with them closely when they were my students. So I took 2 of them to Podfest in January in Florida, right? So they got the chance to meet and convene with other podcasters and get excited. So I'm slowly adding to my team. I just hired a really great executive assistant, right? I'm making strategic hires, but I'm also not over-promising, which I got into trouble with my PR firm because I was like, everybody needs to have full benefits because even though y'all don't live in California, I live in California and that's the rules. And then everybody needs, full-time hire, even if the bank account's not showing that I should hire all these people for that many hours, then you're not paying yourself. So you have to learn through business, learn through listening to podcasts, learn from people like Yoli and myself, and then build up methodically and slowly, because that's what's going to equate success. You have that strong foundation first. So it was the podcast, absolutely. Then end of August of last year, I quit my other job as executive director because I was like, oh, my podcast will make enough money to replace that income. Plus, I needed to take this chance on myself. I love teaching. I'm never going to give up teaching, creating courses. I have a couple courses I'm working on creating right now for USC that also might become courses for entrepreneurs. But so the podcast, and then I was like, I'm going to launch production. And then I realized, ooh, that's a lot of work to do production for other people. And not every client wants all the stuff for production. So we have some production clients, but I'm not advertising that. So I sent out one email in December and said, hey, starting this coaching, done with you, coaching for podcasters. Here's what all the things you're going to get out of it. Send me an email, schedule time. Out of that, I have 5 people in a cohort right now. Most of them just started in March. A couple people started earlier. So, I'm building slowly because I want to make sure this is what works.
And see, this is valuable to hear because we've got these incoming freshmen and the post-grad that's heading out as well. That's primarily who we serve. And side hustles or, what everybody's looking for.
Yep.
And so for you to talk about how you are managing being a USC professor and a podcast company owner, it's possible. Your side hustle is going through the roof and you're still a professor. So you can do all these things if you manage them well, is what I'm hearing.
And USC, a big part of why they hired me was because of my podcast.
So
my side hustle turned into things that that's the world I want to live in. I love teaching. I love seeing the aha moments. I love seeing success with the students. And I love when they keep in touch with me afterwards. for years and years and years. And with that, the coaching is kind of like teaching, but it's entrepreneurs, right? But entrepreneurs often still have the same issues with mindset, with, I'm really shy. I don't like to be on the camera. How do I get more comfortable? Well, if you're going to start a podcast, you got to get over that pretty quickly. So yeah, this side hustle turned into something that I really love, that I want to help other people succeed in and make money, not just get tired after doing a few episodes. There are so many jobs in the podcast space. If you have a side hustle, there's probably a job for you in podcasting, right? Because I have people who focus on analytics, who focus on guest experience, who focus on vetting guests. I have an AI created for vetting guests. I have somebody who focuses on social media, growth, marketing. And yes, many of those people could probably do overlap jobs, but having specialists is like really helpful for me right now. And so anybody who's listening probably has skills. You probably have editing skills because you might be doing your TikTok videos using CapCut or Descript. Guess what? You can edit a podcast, or you can edit at least the shorts. So there is so much with this. I think podcasting and AI are the two things I always hone in, because, by the way, I teach grad students, but I also went back to get my MBA specializing in AI/ML. So I'm teaching grad school, but I'm also a grad student. A little interesting place to be.
And what is IML?
Oh, so artificial intelligence and machine learning, ML.
Got it. AIML.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's a subset of the big artificial intelligence.
Wow. You are a wealth of knowledge over there.
Thank you. I just love learning. I love talking to people. I love learning from my podcast guests, from my students, from other professors. And I really love being surrounded by women like yourself who have had success, because I also think, you are the people, like most of my friends and family are not entrepreneurs. So I need to be with other women entrepreneurs, because that honestly has built my confidence up so much.
You're right.
So if anybody is listening, you're going to be an entrepreneur, do it as a side hustle. Be really smart and slow and methodical about it. Don't spend money on just any program that you see out there, because that might work for that person, but do you have the time to do it yourself?
And don't quickly jump ship, because you've had the success and you're still balancing. So weigh it all out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Well, this has been great. So we always wrap up with these final words of encouragement, but man, you have been laying it out. Build your confidence, surround yourself with greatness. But if there were final words of encouragement for a student that's just seeking to maybe make the most of social media and be the most proactive right now, do you have some words of encouragement?
Be yourself. Don't just go do all the trends because they're trends, because those will fleet. And if they don't match your brand, people can tell. Social media is very, very powerful tool you can use. All the e-commerce that is done. The number of things lately, I have not shopped anywhere but my Instagram. And I didn't used to do as much of that, but there are brands I followed for a long time that I'm like, okay, now it's time to purchase. Or things that I see, I'm like, I go through reviews, look in Google, do all the research, then go back. Yep, I'm going to buy that. Buy one thing. Oh, okay, this is working. I'm going to buy more things from that brand. So if you have a brand, you have a product, you have a service that you're trying to sell and you're trying to elevate yourself via social media, this is absolutely still the time to do it. Pick your channels wisely. Don't be everywhere, right? Reserve all the names everywhere, but focus on one or two main channels, places where you know that people who want you are going to be living. Be really strategic about that. Don't just throw stuff out. Don't make it look like none of your content is cohesive. So that goes back to the brand blueprint, right? Thinking about messaging. You think about then how do you shape that messaging into content pillars so you know how to show. So usually maybe you'll do a post that's an educational post. You'll do something that's fun. You'll show the product off or reviews or an interview that you've done. There's a lot of different ways to slice it. But yeah, social media, absolutely. And that's not limited to TikTok and Snap and, Insta and all the offshoots from that, but at LinkedIn.
Yes, I was going to ask you. It sounds like you said products go with Instagram, but LinkedIn, what do you think? Maybe for services?
Services, B2B services, thought leadership, just making really great connections. But I do get pitched a lot for my podcast through Instagram. There are brands that exist as services on Instagram too. But I find that that's more for sharing, just Like it's hard because I used to have a big Instagram that was more about my life in Houston, which was art scene, fashion, charities, like doing a lot of the social stuff, emceeing events. I did have a radio show there and Facebook Live show. To my life here, I tried to move it to the PR firm and it didn't work. So you also have to be really strategic with your social media and make sure it is aligned to who you are, that it feels good. And maybe you start other accounts for those other parts of your business, right? Once they start getting bigger.
It's time. This has been great. Wow. I'm so glad we met.
Me
and you
too.
said yes. We're always excited when you guys say yes. So now if they want to find you on social media or maybe your website, where would you like to send folks?
LinkedIn is a place I usually lead people.
Okay.
So it's just my name. So Anika Jackson on LinkedIn. You'll know it's me because it says the professor of podcasting is the first line.
I love that.
But under my featured section, my LinkedIn newsletter is there. Links to book an intro call. I love doing chat sessions with people. No obligation, no charge. I do it for my students at USC all the time too. Even if they're not my students anymore, they know that they can use that link to schedule time with me. And we can usually solve something in 15 minutes.
Well, all right, listeners, that's a gift. Go ahead.
And I have a clone. I have a Delphi clone. She's programmed with about 4 million words-ish from workshops, classes, interviews I've done, articles I've written, my podcast. And you can go on and speak to her in any language. You can text her or call her. She will have my voice, maybe not the first or second sentence, but then it'll sound like me. And she has knowledge on all this. You can say, how do I start my brand? Here's my business idea. How do I market this? Or what's my first step? And she'll walk you through all of that and even give you the references from where it came from me. So a lot of people do that and she's free to use. So I'll say, start there and then see what you can get answered. And then feel free to reach out, schedule time with me through my Calendly. And let's have a chat, but you'll at least have a basis of information and be able to come to me with other questions.
Fantastic. And all this is on the website.
It's all on LinkedIn. And then there are links to a lot of it from my yourbrandamplify.com website as well.
Okay. I'll be sure to post those. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, students, you have a direct contact. There's
Yes, please.
no excuse. And free access for business entrepreneurship tips. Goodness gracious. Thank you so much. This is great.
Thank you.
All right. So we will talk soon and I appreciate your time. You take care of yourself.
You too.
Thank you for joining us. So are you ready to take your side hustle to the next level? If so, contact Ms. Jackson today and find out how you can get started. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast. And if you would like to learn more about other special events, join our community on our YouTube channel at the Back to Me podcast, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.